Okay, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for our webinar, Why Work at UKAEA. Marisa, please. So I'm just going to do a quick, my name's Jackie DL, so I'm the recruitment manager here at UKAEA, and I'm just going to give you a very quick overview of what the webinar will cover today. So we're going to start with an overview, an introduction into UKAEA from our Head of Communications, Chris Warwick. And then you'll get to meet some of our employees, Debbie, Chris and Matt, who are going to give you a little bit of information about what they do here at UKAEA and about their experience and why they enjoy working here. I'm then going to give you a little bit of an overview of our opportunities and the benefits that we offer at UKAEA and how you can apply if you are interested in working here. Followed by that, we're going to ask you to take part in a poll, very, very quick and easy, but we're just really interested in capturing our audience today and understanding a little bit more about yourselves and where you are in your career at the moment. We have a Q&A option for our attendees, so we'd be really interested if you've got any questions, anything you want to ask, please use that Q&A. It's just at the bottom of the screen. If you hover over your screen, there's a little tab that says Q&A and it gives you the opportunity to ask us any questions. We'll come back to you throughout the webinar and also allow some time at the end to talk through some of the answers as well. And then just to let you know, we've also got Marisa Dale, who's part of our recruitment team. She'll be joining us today and helping us filter some of these questions and supporting the webinar. So I really hope you enjoy. I'm going to hand over to Chris to give you that overview. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies in advance if my dog starts barking or one of my children comes running past. Such are the vagaries of working from home. Thanks, Marisa and Jackie, for telling me to do an introduction to Fusion in 5 minutes, which is about 55 minutes less than normal, but we'll give it a go with just a few slides. So just a quick introduction to what the UK Atomic Energy Authority does. If you could go to the next slide, please, Marisa. Brilliant. If you remember nothing else from today, and I hope you remember much more from the talks that follow mine, what you're doing if you wanted to describe in one sentence is try and make what happens in the sun happen here on Earth, to turn a turbine and produce electricity. That's the ultimate goal of fusion, is to produce carbon-free, clean and safe electricity generation for the future, and abundant, would give you a power source for many tens of thousands of years. That's the ultimate goal. So, you know, what you are trying to do and aspiring to do is do what the sun does. The sun, actually, to do it in a little bit more detail, sticks hydrogen together. 600 billion kilograms every second of hydrogen in the core of the sun is fusing, and over several stages making helium, and in the process of making a bigger nucleus, releasing energy, and that is the heat and light that the sun is producing day in, day out, that keeps us alive here on Earth. So in a sense, we're all reliant on fusion. It's just happening 150 million kilometers away. To reproduce it here on Earth, we are actually focusing on a different reaction, and that's the one you can see on the left-hand side there, which is the sticking together, and this is as technical as my bit gets, sticking together of deuterium and tritium, two heavy forms of hydrogen coming in at the top right and top left, and they will stick together under the right conditions to produce helium, which is coming out bottom left, and a single extra neutron bottom right. And through the clever way that nuclear physics works, both the helium and the neutron come out with more energy than the deuterium and tritium came in. So you might be saying, deep down, certainly those who don't know much about fusion, why on earth isn't this on the grid yet? This is incredibly hard to do. In order for fusion to happen in the sun needs to be at 15 million degrees. So the fusion is making the sun hot, but it has to be hot enough for those nuclei to move quickly enough to stick in the first place. We have to get conversely to a temperature of around 150 million degrees before deuterium tritium will start to stick. So you can start to see the difficulties already, and a lot of the other technology problems we have stem from the difficulty of getting the reaction going. I don't see it as a difficulty, I see it as a fascinating area of science, and I've worked at UKAEA for 30 years, and it is a phenomenal thing to try and do, very, very interesting, but certainly not trivial. Okay, next slide, please. A very quick aerial view of site, which seems very unfamiliar to many of us at the minute, unfortunately. We haven't been back on site for a long, long time now. But this is the Culham site in deepest rural Oxfordshire. very, very quickly, I'll go through the acronyms, and we are full of them for sure. At the top right is the Joint European Torus. We host and operate Europe's fusion experiment, the world's largest fusion experiment in that big white building. We are paid an amount by the European Commission to provide of the order of 400 engineers to make sure that machine runs safely, to make sure all the maintenance is done, all the upgrade work is done, then for European scientists to come and run the experiments. We also then have our own UK machine, and that's called MAST, which stands for Mega Amp Spherical Tokamak. Tokamaks are the type of devices we're running, and MAST is a more compact, more spherical device, and you'll get a glimpse of that later on. That is currently undergoing an upgrade, so we're changing MAST to MAST U or MAST Upgrade, and we're just coming to the end of that upgrade and hope to be running at the end of this year with some fantastic new facilities in MAST. So that's looking at how we might shrink the scale down of a future fusion device. We also have two supporting technology facilities, a materials research facility, or MRF, looking at the kind of materials you can build a future power station out of that frankly will survive in a phenomenally harsh environment, which is what fusion presents you with. That challenge of that environment means you need very clever materials to build the device out of in all its forms. And also, how do you maintain it? Fusion is a nuclear technology, and albeit less nuclear than nuclear fission, there are issues around maintenance and the fact we have to do that remotely. So RACE stands for Remote Applications in Challenging Environments. I will test you at the end whether you've remembered all these. And that's a robotics center looking into all things robotics to do with maintenance and looking after your device, certainly as you get through to what a power station looks like. Finally, on the extreme left-hand side is Oxford Advanced Skills. That's an apprentice training center. We're very conscious, as well as recruitment events like this, we need to recruit at all levels of the organization. We have a very, very successful and very quickly growing apprenticeship scheme, and OAS supports that. As well as us, and Jackie and Marisa will tell you later maybe how many people we employ, but we're certainly over 1,500 at the minute. There's about another 1,000 working for 40 to 50 scientific companies on site that rent the space on site that we don't use. So it's a fully fledged science park, Culham, with lots of very exciting work going on, as well as fusion. Okay, next slide, please. And I'm probably done my 5 minutes already. I'll get in trouble. Very quickly then, what are the challenges? And you can see that we've really thought hard about the facilities we've built to look at some of the key challenges that stand between us and a fusion power station in the next 20 or 30 years. Dealing with this hot fuel. Fuel is 10 times hotter than the sun, and that will be the case in a fusion power station. Jet is the most advanced and largest and most powerful fusion device, and regularly gets up to those kind of temperatures. So understanding what the very hot gas looks like. You can see a picture of a plasma, a very hot gas of fuels inside Jet, of deuterium there, but we're running with tritium later on this year. How stable it is, how well confined it is. Jet is the most advanced at looking at that in the world, and we obviously gain a lot of experience from hosting Jet. How do you get excess heat out? A bit like your car engine, you have to exhaust the impurities that you don't any longer need, and that includes excess heat. That's a real issue. How do you do that? And we're looking at a very clever, innovative way of doing that effectively on MAST Upgrade. So that'd be one of the key things that MAST Upgrade solves for us. You can see the hot cells there in the materials research facility. This is taking candidate sample materials and testing how strong they are. So we deliberately weaken them and see how strong they are so that we can start to work out the materials we build a future fusion power station out of. Working with industry to test new components for future power plants. That's a new suite of facilities we're going to build at Culham in the next couple of years. And also a brand new facility up in Yorkshire that's currently under construction, due to open later this year, in Rotherham, just between Rotherham and Sheffield, on an advanced manufacturing park up in Yorkshire. Looking at all things tritium of the two fuels is radioactive, so we have to deal with it very carefully, storing it, recovering it, and heat. We'll look at all those things. That's being built at Culham in the next couple of years as well. And we talked earlier about robotic handling in RACE. So these are some of the key challenges that a future fusion power station faces, and the ones we're facing head on at the minute. Next slide, please, which I think is the last one. Is that me done? Finally, is where all this is building to. Countries all around the world have plans a conceptual phase for looking at what a power plant looks like. Beyond Jet is a device called ITER being built in France at the minute. But in the UK, we've now been given money by UK government, significant amount of money for us, more than we've been given in any single lump before, of just over 200 million last autumn, to look at the conceptual design of our own UK power station. And here is another acronym called STEP, Spherical Tokamak for Energy Production. This is really the icing on the cake. I've been at Culham for 30 years, and we've never had a proper power plant design program. So we're bringing all the expertise we've got to bear and looking at the final product. STEP will not go onto the grid until around 2040, but we're starting the initial design with all the experience and knowledge that we have from all of those facilities I've just described. So to sum up, we're at an extremely exciting phase at the authority. We're being well supported by government, really well supported and funded. And there is a whole range of practical and design opportunities available that I know Marisa and Jackie will share with you later. I hope you enjoyed that. That was probably more than 5 minutes, so I'll get a telling off later on. You've got a few more talks on individual projects now. I will hang around and I'll be around for the Q&A if you want to ask any questions alongside others. Thanks very much.
Great, thanks so much for that, Chris. So we're now going to move on to hearing from some of our employees. So Debbie's going to start us off. Thanks, Debbie.
Sure. Do you want to screen share, or are we ready? Check. Okay. Right. So I'm Debbie. Hello. Who am I? I work as the exascale algorithm specialist in the advanced computing group. My typical role is quite varied. I work for my research work. I work with novel algorithms to improve simulation capabilities within Culham. Now, for those who are not familiar with these terms, we are an experimental facility. So as Chris was describing, we have real machines who perform real experiments. Having said that, most of these experiments, or pretty much all of them, are planned and then later analyzed and predicted using computer coding, which we call simulations. And my job is pretty much to improve these simulations or optimize them. So in general, I'm interested in schemes that allow me to do that. And my specialization is in something called parallel in time, which is quite novel. In my work, I have to work extensively with external researchers from all around the world. In my particular case, they're mostly physicists or mathematicians or computer scientists. I also mentor PhD students, which I find really fulfilling. I'm also the inclusion ambassador for my department. And I have to say UKAEA has at least one inclusion ambassador per department. The goal is to promote diversity. I'm also involved in outreach activities. Well, I mean, I would not as much as I would like to, but I try. My scientific work requires me to travel considerably around the world, but again, that depends on which department you are in and what role you are in. In my case, it mostly involves presenting results, discussing with colleagues from across disciplines, some organizational work, that sort of thing. But in a nutshell, I would just describe my role as just super exciting. Next slide, please, Marisa. Thanks. So the kind of work I do, the skills I have, are not limited to fusion. So this is a message for those coming from worlds outside of fusion. If you do not know anything much about it, that's absolutely okay, because I did not. My PhD thesis did involve fusion, but it was an application. It could be something else as well. So as I think I've already mentioned in the previous slide, I work with experts in other areas. So right now, actually, I'm involved in a project where we are heavily involved with the Met Office. Because most of the problems are very similar to ours. And I could go on about this, which I won't right now because of the restriction on time. Because I always say this, that equations are something that we build. Nature does not care if it's fusion or the ocean or the upper atmosphere or whatever. So anyway, so if you have skills in other areas, you are more than welcome to apply at Culham. We have chemists, we have, as you will see, we have health physicists, we have engineers of all sorts, mathematicians, physicists, of course. So yes, I mean, this is a place for everybody. Next slide, please. So how is it working at UKAEA? I think I've already conveyed this. First message is exciting. Just because it's cutting edge science, it's challenging, and just because we do not have answers to all the problems, it's definitely not run of the mill, so it's really exciting. From an employee perspective, flexible working hours makes managing life much easier. So if you have caring responsibilities or just not the regular person who can follow the regular, the office hours, we can work around that. So we have flexible working hours. I, for example, have a toddler, a hyperactive toddler actually. So it just allows me to keep my life in control. The other thing that I find quite important when I'm working is diversity. So, and that's something that is very important to UKAEA as an employer. Which I mean, and we stand out in that. UKAEA stands out. I mean, you don't get that's. I mean, the importance that's given to diversity is not so common in every other company. And talking about recent times, the COVID-19 scenario, I think I can say as an employee that UKAEA has been the most supportive employer that I could ask for under the given circumstances. We are communicated regularly, we are given updates, guidances. If we have problems, worries, we can communicate, we know who to communicate with. And most importantly, actually, we have paid leave in that sense, because most of us are in a situation which we are unfamiliar with. For example, you may have caring responsibilities, which you normally don't have when we didn't have COVID. So how do we go about it? We have been assured that it's okay, we still have a job, we still get paid, and it's more important that we stay healthy, mental health as well as physical health. So we are allowed to do other things that which we normally wouldn't do if we didn't have this whole coronavirus thing, and still get work done. And because of that assurance, I think we can be much more productive. Next slide, please. Which brings us to the end. And I'm more than happy to answer if you have doubts or questions during the Q&A. Over to Chris Dorn, who will tell you some more exciting stuff.
Thank you very much for that introduction there, Debbie. So my name is Chris, and today I'm going to tell you what I do for the UKAEA and what the UKAEA does for me. So my current role, I work in the health physics group, and in case you're not familiar with the term, health physics is the group responsible for radiation protection, radiation safety. So Chris mentioned earlier in his presentation that we work with tritium, which is a radioactive substance, and we also work with beryllium metal. It's a rare metal, and it has some great properties that make it suitable for use in the jet reactor, but it also has some very special safety requirements associated with handling it. So it's necessary to have a special protection program. And in the business development role, so this essentially means working with customers, and basically the UKAEA has a level of expertise in beryllium safety such that we can sell that. We can sell that and do work for other customers to help them learn how to handle beryllium safely in their facilities. So that's the focus of my work. I first learned about the UKAEA a long time ago because my background as a materials engineer is in working with beryllium, and I worked for the world's largest commercial producer of the material for many years. And in those days, I knew the UKAEA as a customer because the UKAEA were buying material to put inside the reactor. In more recent years, I took a job in fusion research in France, and while I was working there, I knew the UKAEA as a supplier of that technical expertise that I mentioned just before. And that's how I ended up finding out about the job opportunity that I now have. So my onboarding experience at UKAEA was excellent. I'm not a UK citizen, so it meant that the process for my coming on board was a bit more involved in terms of the security clearance and getting my work visa and everything that I needed from the government. But UKAEA provided me sponsorship for that visa. And in my special case, they also gave me legal assistance and help with my relocation. So they really made it seamless and easy in the end, even though it did take a long time. Next, please. So since that time, you know, I would say that the skills that I came with to the UKAEA have certainly been transferable in many areas. So that includes the technical aspects of what I know about materials engineering, but also what I knew about business development before I came on board. So those are directly applicable. But the real upside for me has been the fact that the UKAEA already has a strongly developed training program for its employees. And through that program, I've already been trained in new aspects of the field that I'm in with the beryllium safety. And so I've expanded my own skill set, and all that has been based on the UKAEA's local expertise, which I am now a part of, but I also have access to it by the same token. So as far as during the COVID-19 situation that we've had, UKAEA have handled it very, very well. An expression that we use in the United States is we say that somebody walks the talk. And that means that they don't just say the words, they actually back it up with actions. And I can say that I've really appreciated the fact that my full-time employment has been maintained throughout the entire pandemic time, and there's been full communication and transparency from the top of the organization, the CEO, all the way down to my immediate supervisor. And it's been regular communications, including, you know, at my supervisor level as daily. So the best part of my jobs, well, the job itself is a really important aspect, of course, and to work in fusion is a very rewarding field. To think that we're doing something to help the world find a clean energy source, and we can see how important that is. And the job itself offers me challenges as well as opportunities for growth, and like Debbie mentioned, flexible work hours, which has really been great for me. But overall, the most important part of the whole thing has been the people that I've worked with. I have the best boss I could ever have imagined, and I'm really pleased with my colleagues and the work environment at UKAEA, which are totally conducive to bringing out the best performance from everybody, in my opinion. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'd be happy to answer any questions during the Q&A. So now I would like to introduce my colleague and fellow employee, Matt Tennant.
Good afternoon, everyone. Slide, please. My name is Matt Tennant. I'm a project manager within RACE. I think Chris covered it right at the beginning of the remote applications in challenging environments. I'll talk through what I do in a second. So going chronologically, how did I find UKAEA? In my previous life, which we'll discuss in a second, I was coming to the end of a long fixed term contract, and I started to get a bit of ground rush as I approached within a couple of years of the end of that. So I started looking around for jobs in Oxfordshire, and I was looking to start a second career as a project manager. I first applied to UKAEA in 2018, but it didn't work because of the extended 7-month notice period I had to give to my old employer. So I just kept an eye on the website as the time went on. Then when I'd moved on to a new employer, I was able to apply in 2019. In terms of timelines, I think I hit a perfect, in a good way, hit a perfect storm in terms of application timelines. I spotted the job offer, sorry, the application about 2 days before it closed on the website. So I was able to drop my CV in there and then, which was right at the beginning of October 2019. And I actually walked into the office as a full-time employee some 10 weeks later. That included the whole telephone interview, a panel interview, the offer process, accepting the offer process, the security checks, and then getting onto site. So really quite quick. Slide, please. So then and now, who was I, who am I now? Both times I was Matt. I was in the army. I joined as a teenager, joined the army in 1990, commissioned from the ranks after 18 years and left after 30 years at the beginning of 2019. I initially joined as an ammunition technician, so kind of from a background of maintaining the army's, maintaining, repairing and inspecting the army's ammunition items up to and including guided missiles and their storage facilities for that. I was quite quickly streamed into the bomb disposal side. So from 95 onwards, I was a bomb disposal operator. So I then stayed in that for most of the next 25 years. I was either as actually doing bomb disposal, training it, or part of the, laterally in my career, part of the national response to some of the more nasty incidents that you might have heard of. What am I now then? I'm now a project manager within RACE, so a complete change of pace. My day-to-day work involves the matrix management of a team of engineers, bringing in projects on time and within resource. And the image on the right-hand side of the slide there is the project that I'm running at the moment. It's the generic upper port plug of the ITER tokamak. So I can explain all that in the Q&A for anyone who didn't catch it. But it's effectively a crane system, which is, you can see the scale, European standard human being next to it. It'll be about 12 meters high, weigh 46 tons, and it will maneuver an 11-ton lump of very well engineered steel over 5.5 meters to within an accuracy of 0.1 millimeter. So quite an engineering challenge. Slide, please. So what transferable skills did I bring in from my previous life? Obviously, the things that attracted me to look up column on the internet and to get interested in RACE and CCFE was, I'd always worked with robots. I was a robot user and maintainer for a large part of my career. I'd been involved in chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear and explosive disposal tasks, so I had an awareness of that. I was a qualified, and I'm a radiological protection supervisor, which I thought might be useful when I got here. It hasn't been. I have a chemistry degree and a master's in explosives and a wide experience in what I call vocational project management. So not on project management, just getting jobs done, as you will all have in your various workplace. What are the real skills that I brought in and that I've utilized mostly? Really around what we called in the military the soft skills, so convincing human beings to do what you need them to do, and not always what they possibly want to do. And that involves leadership and management skills, and the two are separate. So, you know, leading the team, being in the meetings early, getting the administration right, and then managing them, sorting all that stuff out, and skills like attention to detail and a good work ethic, as you'll find in any workplace, and they've all been transferable into UKAEA. Slide, please. Pandemic support. Right back at the start, we had almost a couple of daily checks with our line management, which was, for me, a little bit stifling, but I understand I'm a 48-year-old man with a 30-year career in the army. I'm used to being self-reliant. So that was probably really useful for some of our more vulnerable staff members. We were sent home with all our IT equipment. I was really lucky. The stage of my project that I was in really suited being able to do it all just by an IT system. What are the company doing now? Or the authority, sorry, not the company, the authority now. There's an extensive planning process in place now to get us back on site as quickly as we can, whilst keeping everyone safe. So the site has been zoned. We're going to have processes of cleanliness, the usual separation, and follow all the guidance from the government name. Slide, please. And my last slide, why did I want to come to the UKAEA and why do I like it? I think my main big reason, sort of underpinning the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is that underlying purpose. I enjoyed being in the military and being part of a large organization which had a purpose and we're all pulling in one direction, and that's exactly what you'll find in UKAEA. Although you've heard the three people this morning briefing on entirely different jobs, we all know at the end of the day that it's about bringing fusion energy to market, which isn't too, and it's not too big a statement to say it will play a large part in making the planet livable over the next couple hundred years if we get it right. What do I also enjoy? I enjoy the atmosphere. It's a collegiate atmosphere. There's a large staff of experts within what they do, whether that from human resources right the way through to the scientists with brains the size of Bolivia, cutting around in some of the buildings. It's a really pleasant place to work, and there is a drive to the place without it being suffocating, but there is a drive to bring fusion to market. And I also enjoy the area. I decided to settle in South Oxfordshire. I live about 9 miles away, so I can cycle to and from work every day, which keeps the pound off, which is important at my age. Thank you very much for listening. Again, I'll be hanging around for the Q&A. Take care.
So thank you for listening. I hope you all enjoyed only really a snippet of an example of the kind of employees that we have here and the passion that they have for what they do, and the skills and talent that they bring to the organisation. So just to give you a kind of broader view really of what opportunities we have here, Marisa, we can just go to the next slide. So this really is a snippet. We probably have somewhere in the region of about 300 different job titles, if not more, at UKAEA, but this gives you really an overview of the kind of opportunities we have across the different disciplines and areas. So whether it be within engineering, software, science, nuclear specific, project, process engineering. It could be that you're sort of more broad, sort of within the professional support area. We have your kind of more traditional finance HR, but we also have procurement, property construction. So with all the growth that's happening at UKAEA at the moment, we also have a lot of growth. So we're growing a lot within that department. I mean, I could go on all day with a sort of different variety of roles that we have available. But I think the important thing is to know, and I think it was touched on within many of the presentations that you heard, you know, we look for really wider skills than just, you know, some technical abilities, which is so critical for us. Of course it is. You know, we're looking for world leading scientists, we're looking for top class talent, but actually we're looking for people with those other skills, those other competencies that really do help make things happen, that have you know, the good communication skills, leadership ability, you know, working in a team, and being able to utilise many of those other skills is really, really important for us. Our opportunities stem right from early career, so we're very fortunate to have a fantastic apprentice and graduate scheme at UKAEA, right through to senior level leadership roles and everything in the middle. So you know, our growth really has been quite extensive. I think those of you that were able to join right at the start, you'd have heard Chris Warwick mention the amount of growth that's happened on site, and that really over the past sort of 3-4 years, I've been at UKAEA for nearly 4 years now, and actually I've seen that growth and been very much a part of it working in recruitment. We really have brought on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new staff, which has been really, really really positive and exciting for a recruiter particularly, but for the wider organisation. So I'm going to go next slide if that's okay, Marisa. Just give you a quick snapshot of some of the other benefits. So you know, I think Chris, Matt and Debbie all did touch on, you know, some of the benefits to them for working at UKAEA, and we recognise that different people are looking for different things in a job. And the role itself is obviously really, really important, as is the organisation and the mission. And that's something that I think, you know, everybody is really passionate about here. But there are other things that we offer which are really important to many people. You know, salary, obviously, you have bills to pay, money is important, and we do offer competitive salaries, and we have really good, generous annual leave here. So you know, within an average organisation, you might get between 20 to 25 days leave. Here we get more than that. We get a 25 days leave, but also we're fortunate to get a couple of 2.5 privilege days on top of your normal bank holidays. These are set days in the year, but you know, nevertheless, additional days off. And then we work a little bit extra, so 37.5-hour weeks, to allow us then to get a further 3 days off between Christmas and New Year and not have to use your leave for that. So it really does help. We're very open to flexible working, and I think Debbie mentioned the sort of benefits to her and her situation. I myself, you know, I have children and you know, rely on that flexibility. And it's you know, something that we really are open to, and we deal with on a case-by-case basis, for many different reasons, not just caring, you know, for caring, it might be that people have difficult commutes and want to avoid traffic, or, you know, have other arrangements that they need to work around. We're really supportive of career development, and one of the really positive things about the growth is the fact that there have been so many opportunities for people to grow and develop. And, you know, we really do encourage that. You know, we're a research organisation. We want our employees to develop, and that development, you know, is so important for the organisation. We also are, you know, encourage chartership. We encourage people to be have memberships with different professional bodies, and do financially support that. We have an outstanding pension scheme. We're a government organisation, so we're fortunate enough to receive a government pension, which is a defined benefit scheme, which really is you know, fantastic and important, you know, to think about the future. We have an annual bonus which is based on our achievements. So, you know, as an organisation, we set milestones every year, and as an organisation, everybody in some way or another will be able to help and contribute to those, and then have some financial reward, which, you know, which is a real motivator for many. We also, I think Chris mentioned, you know, he relocated from a different country. We do support relocation, and we have some guidelines for that, but certainly if you're sort of out of area, I think it's anywhere sort of further than 50 kilometres, we're able to support relocation costs. We have other benefits available. So we have a discount scheme which gives you money off all sorts of things, from your weekly food shop through to days out with the family, which is great, and you can sign up to that. And then we also have our Culham Sports and Social Association. We've just had a gym refurb. We have lots of fun social events. Unfortunately, sorry, I should say that some of those have had to be cancelled this year, but we've had a very successful festival, sort of summer festival, which has been really great, music festival, and many other events. So, you know, it is really a lovely place to work from that perspective, and there's more to the role than just, you know, the job itself. Thanks, Marisa. And then finally, if working at UKAEA is something that is of interest to you, you know, we'd absolutely love to hear from you. There's various ways to apply. So we have our live vacancies page on our website, so you can have a look there and see if there's any opportunities that meet your requirements that you feel you might be suited to. If the role is that you're interested in possibly isn't there at the moment, we have some talent pools that you can submit an application through, or you can email us through the recruitment inbox, which is there on the screen. And that just, you know, do let us know what your background is, and we can certainly hook you up with a relevant manager that might be hiring at the moment. And then if you want to find out a little bit more about our benefits, you know, latest news, anything like that, please do visit our website, which will give you a little bit more information. Also, really highly recommend that you follow us on one of our, or all of our social media platforms. We have lots of activity going on there, sharing news, webinars like this, which I assume is how you heard about this webinar. But really worth sort of hooking up, linking in with UKAEA, so you can see what's going on. Thank you. We're now going to ask, hopefully very kindly ask, if you wouldn't mind taking part in a poll. We're really interested just to know, you know, who's joined us today, really, not with your specific contact details or anything like that, but if you wouldn't mind just sparing a couple of minutes just to answer the questions. It's a live poll, so just so we get a sense of who's with us today. Once you've done that, we'll then move on to our Q&A and answer any questions that we haven't responded through the email replies. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind taking part, we'll give you a minute or so to do that, please. Can everybody see the poll? I think some of you are starting to respond, so I'm going to assume that that's a yes. have to apologise for the locations. We were limited to only 10 choices, so we had to kind of join a few together. So a rough estimate's fine. I think we're almost all there.
Yeah, just give it sort of 30 seconds more in case people are still completing. I think most
Pretty much there, I think.
responded, yeah, got 90%, so it's good. Okay, I'll close that off. Thank you to everyone that answered. Really appreciate it. Okay, so we'll move on to some of the questions and answers coming through. We've had quite a few come through already, but if you have got any, then we'll try and answer as many as we can. So if we start with, let's see, so we had one here. Hi Debbie, you mentioned that you mentor PhD students. Is this for students undertaking UKAEA projects, or is this a wider programme?
Right, as I already said, it's typically the case, at least the cases I have been involved in, the people I know have been involved with, are projects that should be of interest to UKAEA, but of course the university as well. So we are not a university. We can't grant anybody a degree. So therefore you have to be a PhD student enrolled at a university. And one common option is many of these departments within universities have CDTs. So one university can have multiple CDTs within its various departments, which is called Center for Doctoral Training. And you can enroll there. So that's one way of funding, but there are others. And I think Jackie and Chris can add to what I'm saying. But all I'm saying is it has to be a joint project that should be of interest to the university as well as to us. And we go from there. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you. Chris, we've got one for you. So I'm an undergraduate doing materials science and engineering. Do you have any advice for materials engineers to start a career in the fusion industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. Basically, I would say if you're a young materials engineer and you're in your studies and you're interested in getting into fusion, then start already looking into, it's never too early to look into what's trending in fusion materials. And there are different kinds of materials involved in fusion, depending on whether you want, plasma-facing materials or structural reinforcing materials, things like that. There are different areas, material disciplines within fusion that you could look into. So if you have a particular interest, I would say start looking in that direction and take the courses and studies along those lines. And if you get the chance for any kind of an internship or to do some work externally with a company or something like that, to get some other practical ideas about what's going on. There's also a really good international conference on fusion reactor materials, ICFRM, that happens every 2 years. And you can look that up online, and you'll be able to access the proceedings from the previous ones and potentially attend one of those in the future if you want.
Great, thank you. Matt, I've got one for you, another request for some advice from your side of things. So obviously you went from bomb disposal into project management, and you had lots of key transferable skills that you could use. So as someone who fulfills multiple roles in my current job, depending on the project or situation, he said that it's always a challenge to get this structured on a CV. So I don't know if you've got any advice as to how you structured your CV based on your background to display the transferable skills that you now use.
I think it's a generic application type one. So look at the job that you're looking for, look what it's looking for in terms of skills and behaviors on the job advert, and then craft your CV to answer that. So you shouldn't have one copy of a CV somewhere. You should have if you're looking for work, you'll probably have a whole range of them. I certainly did. So I had different CVs for different types of industries where I wanted to pull out. Depending on what age you are, you will have built a huge bank of transferable skills and experience. And you won't be able to get all that onto 2 pages without it just looking ridiculous, or into 10 pages without boring people. So you are going to, what can be really difficult on a CV is leaving some bits out that you think you're very proud of. But if it's of no use to you in the application, then I would leave it out. So that's just it. Read and understand the job advert and craft a CV to answer it. That's your essay question. Your CV is your essay, which is answering it.
Great. Thank you. So we've got another one here. Will there be any modification in the recruitment process due to the pandemic? So I think that's obviously very, very key, and there's a lot of things that we've done already in terms of our recruitment processes to adapt to the current situation. Jackie, I don't know if you want to talk through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as soon as we heard that we'll all be remote working, one of the first things we were told was that we do really need to try and continue recruiting. You know, we still have programs, projects to run. So we have managed to adapt all of our recruitment processes to allow this to happen. We do interviewing via Zoom, which is going really successfully, and we've made many hires in the last 3 months. So it's certainly felt business as usual. Obviously, slightly more challenging with other people having multiple commitments that they wouldn't normally have whilst they're trying to work. But it has been proven to be successful. We've been able to take the process really right through to onboarding. We've managed to get people onboarded and remote working through the process. Obviously, you know, really trying to support people through that initial period, which is difficult, we understand, but I think, you know, everyone has become very familiar with Teams and Skype for Business and Zoom, and it seems to be doing that. We have some people who have gone back to site, and these are sort of critical operations that need to happen, but where people can work from home, this is continuing to be the case, and actually it is allowing us to review how this can work actually, and changing our mindset a little bit for the future. So yes, certainly recruitment is continuing across all levels, so early careers right through to that. I did notice there's another question actually around the graduate scheme, so I'm happy to pick that up whilst
yeah, you might as well. Yeah.
So the question is, will your graduate scheme be open to applicants this year? If so, what do you recommend a graduate do from now until applying, given the situation? I wasn't 100% sure what was meant in terms of recommend doing from now until applying, but certainly we're just finalising all the offers for our grads that are due to start in September, and we'll be reposting and going live. We normally do that sort of in the summer, so I would certainly recommend, you know, you can start thinking about your application, think about what areas you're interested in, and keep an eye out, because like I say, that the role for the graduate scheme for next year is very likely to go live over the next couple of months. So certainly worth getting your application in early. We tend to do a phased process now with the grad scheme. We don't just have one round, we're tending to do it more over a period of rounds, just to help sort of manage that process, because we appreciate different graduates are ready at different stages. I think, Debbie, you get involved a little bit in the grad scheme, don't you? I think you've been supporting. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Actually, I haven't been very closely involved. I have been doing a few interviews, and this will be next year I work with the graduate scheme, and I haven't been with myself. But you answered better than I would have.
Thanks.
We've got another one here, Chris Warwick. This one's for you. So fantastic to hear about STEP funding. Is there clarity on how UKAEA's engagement with international collaborations will be affected by Brexit?
If it's a Brexit question, call Chris. I think the first thing to note is that the STEP funding I mentioned earlier, 220 million, is direct from UK government. And indeed, the funding we've got to build our fusion technology facility and heat are direct from government. And as someone I stressed earlier, I've been here 30 years. The amount of funding we're getting at the minute, support direct from UK government, is fantastic and unprecedented over that last 30 years at least. The implications of Brexit are twofold. One is that we are funded to operate JET, part of our relationship with Europe, our wider relationship with Europe, and up for negotiation. In addition, through Euratom, we are working with UK industry to win contracts on ITER, for example, so far to the tune of £500 million, and we hope another $1 billion into the UK supply chain. So there's a very strong industrial link that we have. I don't think that necessarily came across in any of our talks, but that is a big issue for us. Both of those things are through Euratom. The present situation is that the UK and Europe are looking at Euratom relationship. They both aspire to have a close relationship in the future. And we're extremely hopeful. Nothing can be absolutely sure with a negotiation, but we're extremely hopeful that a way can be found to carry on running JET with an association into Euratom and carry on being involved with ITER as the UK through Europe, through an association. There are associations already. The Ukraine has an association, as does Switzerland. So it's not something we're starting from scratch on. And we're very, very hopeful that will happen. So I think that's the clearest answer.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I'm happy to pick up a couple, Marisa. So
yeah, go ahead.
Question here, do you recruit only permanent roles, or do you consider contract applications and positions? So we do take contractors on board. These are managed by an on-site recruitment agency that we have that support us called Rulian. So they advertise the post separately, but we do have both routes in. Also, we have fixed-term contracts that we will consider across different levels, whether it be a sandwich student or a 2-year fixed-term appointment for a specific project. So yeah, there are different ways, but the recruitment team at UKAEA, specifically myself and Marisa and the wider recruitment team, look after the permanent and fixed-term appointments. So people that are working as a UKAEA employee, but certainly do keep an eye out on Rulian's website. Like I say, they have many sort of contract opportunities available. I saw another one that I'm happy to answer. There's one here about I have a degree and some professional experience in nuclear materials engineering, but my passion for the last few years has been computing. Where would I best fit at Cullen? And is it a possibility for horizontal transfer? Debbie, you might be able to help me a little bit with this one, but I would say, yeah, absolutely. We have a scientific computing department. We also have a CODAS IT department. So depending on sort of what area of computing you're interested in. Also over at RACE, we have a cybernetics department. So there are various different projects and programs that have opportunities within the computing area. So yeah, certainly depending on where in your career you are and what level and what experience you've got, there are various options that your experience could fit.
Yeah, we have resident software engineers as well. And if you are into more developing a code, scientific computing or RACE would be great places for you. If you're more into running the simulations, somebody else writes the code, but you want to play with the physics, then we have many roles within the tokamak science department, or develop theories for your simulations. So depending on your interests, as Jackie said, yeah, there are lots of roles available.
Debbie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Debbie. There's another one here. I think it'd be great if there was any clarification, or if anybody else at UKAEA is aware of. Hi, as an engineer, I'm currently working towards my CN chartership. Does the UKAEA have an MPDS scheme which would allow me to continue to work towards chartership? So we've already covered the different sort of development opportunities that we offer as an employer. I personally haven't specifically heard of this scheme, so I don't know if this is something that you wanted to either follow up in the Q&A just to clarify what MPDS is quickly, or if not, then of course you have got our recruitment email address, and you can always contact us directly, which we can look into for you if it's a specific scheme.
So just picking up on another question. Oh,
Sorry,
Oh, Debbie?
yeah, I was just sorry. I just thought I could add. I'm not sure about the engineering chartership, but we do have a physics chartership, and because the engineering chartership is more known, I would assume there is, but obviously Jackie. But just to assure you, we already have one for the chartered physicists. So, yeah.
Great, thanks, Debbie.
Perfect. I think that's
pretty much there. There's a question just in terms of what kind of requirements I need if I'm from Mexico, the process. So this would be the same process for taking on anyone from outside of Europe. My advice would be to go onto the government website and visit the visa and immigration section, and that gives you a really clear view of all the requirements that you need. And like I say, we UK are tier 2, tier 5 sponsors. We've got level A sponsorships, so we're able to bring people in through that route. But obviously, there are other requirements that you will need to follow to get processed. But yeah, we are able to support that. And I think Chris Dawn gave an example. He came over from the States. So,
and then one final question that I think.
Marissa, can I just follow up on the previous question, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just one more thing, just to make you aware that we also have a security clearance thing. So, and that depends. I think you have to be cleared by every country you've lived in the last 3 years or so.
Yeah, anywhere that you've lived for more than 6 months within the last 3 years, you have to provide a police certificate. Right.
So one more's just come in, so I think it's really important to try and get that one in as well. I'm conscious of time, but Chris Warwick, I'm a PhD student in mineral physics, focusing on experimental techniques. Is there any interest or use of the diamond light source synchrotron at UKAEA?
Not that I'm aware. I won't say that specifically. I know many of the 1,500 people who work at Cullen, but not every single one. There isn't a substantial overlap, as I understand it, with diamond. We have, as part of the materials research facility, we do micromechanical testing of materials, and we have scanning electron microscopes. We work closely with university departments, Oxford, Bristol and others in the MRF. And bearing in mind that, I think we were able to do most of the measurement, microscopy, etc., within our own facilities or within university areas. So if there is any, it's not at a great level. But as a facility, a scientific facility close by, then certainly at communications level, we have some links with them, but not in terms of work.
Great, thank you. And then final one to end on, Jackie. Due to the current COVID situation, it seems that many global industries are experiencing cutbacks. From my understanding, this does not seem to be the case for UKAEA and fusion energy. Is this somewhat correct?
Yes, it is. We've been very fortunate that so much of our work can continue and has continued and will continue. We've got many goals, targets, lots of operations that we're moving back towards, and actual work that's happening. So this has enabled us to continue with the great work that happens at UKAEA at Cullen, and also in our new, for those of you that aren't aware, we're launching a new location up in Yorkshire. I think Chris mentioned it in his presentation, and we've just started the recruitment up there as well. So yeah, we are very fortunate that we can, and we are still continuing to recruit and onboard, and yeah, still seem to be as busy as ever, which it's great. It's great for us. It's great for for our hiring managers and UK and for Fusion. So yeah, please apply if you're interested.
Yeah, well, you've got our contact details on the bottom of the slide there. Yeah, email address if you have got any specific questions. That'll come through directly to Jackie and myself. in the recruitment team. And equally, if you've got specific questions for Chris, Matt, Debbie, anybody else that you've kind of seen on here, then feel free to direct them to the recruitment box, and then we can certainly follow that up for you.
Brilliant.
Great.
That probably brings us to an end. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you coming along, and hope that you can take something away and you've learned some interesting things about UKAEA and some of our fabulous staff that very kindly have joined us today. So thanks to all, and enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your week.